Today we're back talking about becoming Elizabeth. This is episode 6. So this picks up where John Dudley is now investigating what happened. We saw Thomas Seymour is now in the Tower of London. After what he did, it looked like he had a plot to abduct the king. And Elizabeth is being questioned by John Dudley. He tells Elizabeth that he has a warrant for her arrest. They have a conversation in which she really admits to nothing. For a young woman, Elizabeth is quite crafty. She's smart with her words. She knows how to say something but not confess to anything. Her shrewd back and forth with John Dudley just kind of speaks to her mother. She's definitely showing that she's Anne Boleyn's daughter. Anne was extremely smart and cunning and shrewd, and we're seeing some of that in Elizabeth right now. Even the words that she used when she tells John that this is on you to figure out what I've done wrong. It's like, do you not have evidence? Like, so why are you here? What are you accusing me of? Like, maybe you need to kind of get your ducks in a row before you come here accusing me of things. And John sees it. You see the light bulb go off in his head, and he realizes this chick is smart, and she's shrewd, and I'm not going to be able to frighten her into any kind of confession. And she pretty much says that Tom had proposed to her, and that, she would not have gotten married without the approval of the council. She is, unaware of what's been going on, of any plot that he had to kidnap the king, and that, she barely knows him, because how could she know a man who would do such things? She definitely plays with her words in a good way, that sends John away. Without a confession, but with just some acknowledgement that Thomas has done some bad things. Elizabeth also does say that if Thomas did do what they're saying he did, then he does deserve death. And this was a little shocking for me because, we, up until now, we had gotten the impression that Elizabeth was in love with Thomas. She was definitely, smitten and enamored by him. She was having sex with him, and I'm imagining he was her first. So for her to switch gears to the point where she would not protect him or not lie for him was a little interesting. But what I took from this is that this was self-preservation. She also has been around long enough to see how quickly and easily people would be tried for treason, would be executed. Her mother was executed. So she's protecting herself. And I think she's realizing that if she sides with Thomas, or if she lies, or in some way tries to protect him, that this could be her downfall. And she's doing what she has to do to protect herself. There's a scene in which Edward is talking to Somerset, and he is visibly upset. He thought that, well, Thomas is his uncle, and he did see him as a friend. He liked him. So he's confused. He doesn't understand what happened. Why would Thomas do this? He's very upset about his dog because Thomas did shoot his dog. He's wondering if Elizabeth was in on this, and that's his sister, and he loves her. So he's feeling just lost, feeling like, why is everybody against me? Why are the people closest to me hurting me? And we see the sadness in him and how it kind of manifests into a little bit of a rage, where he tells one of his attendants to pluck the feathers off of a falcon while it's still alive. It's the classic case of hurt people hurt people. He's definitely in turmoil over all this. He knows that he has to keep a stiff upper lip. He knows that he has to be a king. But again, he is a young man, and his feelings are hurt, and he's confused, and he's not really sure what all this means, what the bigger picture is. At the same time, we have this rebellion going on. We know that there was a Reformation in which they were trying to force people to let go of the Catholicism and accept the new faith. But this also was not only for the religious piece, but because Somerset was trying to pillage all of the Catholic churches so that he could get the money to fund his war in Scotland. And it's not going well. The folks are rebelling. They have a leader who is leading them in this charge. We heard that they have been told that they should kill all gentlemen. We see that noblemen and noblewomen are being murdered up north, and this is becoming a huge thing. So, the country is having all of this turmoil all about. And Lord Somerset, he's getting hit from all sides. His brother has committed a crime and he's now in the Tower. He has to deal with that. The council is upset with him because they think he's not handling that well. Henry Grey is calling for, the trial and the execution of his brother. Gardner is also echoing that sentiment, and they're implying that Lord Protector might be weak because he hasn't done anything about this yet. He's got this rebellion going on in the north. The country is having financial issues. There's a lot of moving parts here, and you can see the stress of it building on him. He sends John Dudley up to the north to handle the rebels, and John is not happy with this, because he has, for the most part, been Lord Somerset's right-hand man, and he is a logical, sound person. And he's asking him, why are you sending me? Like, I need to be here with you and help you manage all of this. So Lord Somerset says, no, I just need you to go up there. They get into a little bit of a back and forth, and Lord Somerset tells him, listen, you need to obey me. This is an order. You're going to go and you're going to do it. And we see a little bit of a fracture there because John's feelings seem to be a little hurt because he does seem to be the only one who has Lord Somerset's back. And to have him talk to him in such a way and have him send him on this ride up north to deal with rebels when he feels like there's more pressing issues at court that he can be assisting with. And we can see that there's a little bit of a fracture in their friendship with this decision. So Thomas is in the Tower of London, and I don't think he quite gets it. I don't think he quite understands the gravity of this. When his brother goes to see him, he's wondering, okay, when will my trial be? Thomas is a very charismatic person. He obviously has been able to talk himself out of all these problems and tough situations throughout his life. So I think he's imagining he can do this again. And he's just imagining, I'll have a trial, I'll say a couple of things, Elizabeth will probably back me up. And he's thinking that this is just going to be, a one and done situation, but it's not. Henry Grey and Bishop Gardner have drafted order for his execution. They have brought him up on charges. They say there's 33 counts of some other stuff, of the inappropriate things that he did with the Princess Elizabeth, and now this plot to kidnap the king. And they're using this saying, like, this is the last straw. Like, he has been convicted of treason and now he needs to be executed. Now, obviously, this would need to be approved by the king. And because the king is a minor, it would also have to be approved by the Lord Protector, who is his brother. And maybe that's where Thomas feels a sense of safety too, knowing that his brother would have to sign off on this, and his brother wouldn't do that to him, right? But the Lord Protector lets him know, like, no, this is serious. Like, there's no trial. You have been convicted. And then it starts to kind of sink, and then it starts to sink in with Thomas, like, oh, they're for real. Like, this is some serious stuff here. He kind of falls back on this dysfunctional relationship he has with his brother, in which he calls them Cain and Abel, and how his brother is betraying him. And he does this thing that we've seen him do a couple of times, this victim thing where, his life has been so hard and, he's always been struggling. I get the impression that Thomas is probably dealing with some undiagnosed depression. I guess at the time, depression obviously wasn't a thing, but clearly he's a very unhappy man. And that's why he probably drinks so much and why he acts out. But he is, he goes into this place again where he makes his brother out to be the bad guy. And he is not taking accountability for his behavior. And I think that that's the moment in which it sinks in for the Lord Protector that he's not going to get it. I will be putting out fires for him for the rest of my life because he's going to never take accountability. It's never going to be his fault. He's always going to blame somebody, and he's reckless, and he will self-destruct. And now I have to manage this, and because of the position I'm in as Lord Protector, it's going to be a conflict of interest. It's already disrupting his image and his leadership with the council because they're already accusing him of being biased and being weak. And it's understandable. It's his brother. Obviously, he doesn't want to put his brother to death, but if this has been anybody else, it would have kind of been a no-brainer, right? Bishop Gardner and Henry Gray had brought the order for the execution to the king behind the back of the Lord Protector. And they tell him, Thomas Seymour has done all these other horrible things, and it's 33 counts of treason, and he's done these things with your sister, and now he's tried to kidnap you, he's killed your dog, you need to sign off on this. Edward obviously loves his uncle. He's still trying to figure out all of this and wrap his mind around what has happened. He doesn't feel good about it, but he also does know that he needs to be the king, and he has to make hard decisions. He signs it knowing that the Lord Protector also needs to co-sign it. And what I think happens here is he doesn't believe that the Lord Protector will sign off on it. So his signature might mean nothing. So he, in his head, is like, I can sign this and give them the impression that I support this decision, but it's not really going to happen because somehow, some way, my other uncle is going to fix this. I think that that's what was going on in Edward's head, and that's why he signed it. When they bring that signed order to Lord Protector and tell him to sign it, or ask him to sign it, his reaction at first is like, this is my brother. Are you crazy? Like, I'm not going to do this. And then they start accusing him of being weak and getting in his head. But I think after he has the conversation with his brother and sees the bigger picture, he realizes that this is something that I'm going to need to do. And he signs it, and you can see that his heart is broken while he does it. At the same time, Bishop Gardner and Henry Francis are scheming to try to usurp the Lord Protector. They are trying to push him out of his role, and they want to replace him with somebody who they think that they can control. And through that person, then they can control the king. Again, Gardner is a devout Catholic. He is a fan of Mary's because she's also a devout Catholic. He believes that with her as the Lord Protector, this will kill all of this rebellion, because all these folks who are rebelling up north because they are being forced to renounce their faith will fall in line, because now a Catholic is at the realm. So that would solve that problem. Edward obviously loves and adores his sister, so he will listen to her. She is sound and she is smart, but also they're thinking that they can control her and then control Edward. So it sounds like a good idea to make Mary the Lord Protector. They come to her with this idea. She likes the idea. Obviously she wants to protect her brother because she's seen all the horrible things that happen in court. She knows what she's been through, even at the hands of her own father. So she does agree to this. Later on, she has a conversation with the Lord Protector, and she's not a fan of his, obviously, because she's learned what he has done with the Catholic churches and how he has ransacked them and stolen all of their goods in order to fund this war, how he hired Sir Pedro to spy on her. She at one point thought that he was a friend, and she's learned differently, so she's not a fan of his right now. And she lets it be known that what the plan is for her to become the next Lord Protector and to take his role. Once he learns this, he runs to Edward and he takes him to one of his castles or to one of his properties, because he feels like he has to insulate himself now. He knows that there is a plot to overturn him, and he has to get King Edward under his thumb, so that they can't get into his ear, and so that he can turn all this around. He calls for John Dudley, who he had sent up north. But you remember, their last conversation wasn't a good one. John was upset that he had sent him, and when he tried to help the Lord Protector, he pushed him away and told him that, you need to obey me. So John is not happy. But he comes back, and we see that he has developed a scheme or an idea in his head as well. I mean, it seems like, there's no honor amongst thieves here, right? Everybody's kind of out for themselves. And although John had been very loyal to Lord Somerset, we see that he has decided that he wants to take over this role. He believes that he is qualified for it. He tells Lord Somerset later that, I'm going to, I'll be the new Lord Protector. I'm saving you from yourself. In a sense, like, I tried to help you earlier, but you refused me. So, like, this is where we're at right now. And he takes the role. He tells the king, I'm your new protector. The king seems to go along with it. Once he walks in on the council and Mary is there because she's thinking that that's her new role, he lets everybody know, like, there's a new sheriff in town, and everybody goes along with it. And Mary realizes that this is not going to happen for her, and she walks out of the room. So Lord Somerset has lost his position, and a lot of it has to do with his commitment. Well, some of it is his behavior. He's not the most user-friendly guy to begin with. He has turned a lot of people off, but I guess the straw that broke the camel's back is the situation with Thomas and them not having faith in him and able to make objective decisions because he is clouded by his relationship with his brother, which makes sense. So anywho, we have learned that Thomas is going to be executed. Once he, they decide that he's going to be hung. Before as he's getting dressed in the tower, he writes a letter to Elizabeth. I'm imagining some kind of, affirmation of his love for her. And he asks the young man who is helping him get dressed to sneak this letter to Elizabeth. He's like, I'm going to put it in my shoe. Please make sure that she gets this. When he gets to when he gets to the block, he reminds the kid, make sure that this letter gets to Elizabeth, and the kid betrays him. He tells everybody that, he has a letter in his shoe. He wants me to get it to Elizabeth. They take the letter from him. Thomas is executed. It's a bad execution. A good execution is one swift blow. In this case, it takes two, which was painful to watch. So his ending is not good. It's pretty tragic. His brother is not there to see the execution, and he dies in a disgrace. And his last wishes aren't even honored because he wanted to get that letter to Elizabeth. So back at Chelsea Manor, we see that the day of Thomas's execution, Mary comes to sit with Elizabeth. She knows that her sister loved this man. She knows that this is a hard time for her, and she comes to be with her, even though Elizabeth said she'd prefer to be alone, and Mary's like, nobody prefers to be alone. I really like this relationship between the two of them. I mean, again, they were pitted against each other from the time they were young, and it would make sense that they might not even be close at this point, but they are, despite the odds. And Mary does care about her. She tells her that, even when you were a kid and they told me I had to come and serve you, I still cared for you. And I loved how you used to love to hold my hand. And, we are sisters and we need to stick together. And I'm going to be here for you regardless. So that was a really nice moment between the two of them. And another thing that Mary does is assure her that you did the right thing. Because Mary knows that her sister was conflicted. She obviously loved Thomas, but she was smart enough to see him for the destructive person he was, but also knowing that if she sided with him, it could be her demise. So she made a decision. She probably feels guilty. She will probably never get over this, but it had to be done. And for her sister to affirm that for her was huge. Mary tells her a story about how when she was separated from her mother all those years, her father had sent somebody to threaten her and to sign a letter basically admitting that she was a child of incest, because Henry was asserting that his marriage to Catherine of Aragon was not legal because she was married to his brother and blah, blah, blah. So he had, again, Henry VIII, the things that he did to his children, he had somebody threaten his own daughter, threaten to smash her head in if she didn't sign this letter. And you could imagine how hard that was for Mary. To write a letter that's really betraying her mother, that is admitting to something that's not true, but she did it to protect herself. And she is making that comparison for Elizabeth to let her know, look, I had to make some hard decisions to protect myself. And that's what you had to do. And don't feel bad about that. Later, we see that Kat, who is Elizabeth's governess, she had been interviewed for about the whole situation with Thomas, and they had taken her to the tower and scared the shit out of her. She's an older woman. She's not about this life. She did warn Elizabeth. She did see some things, but she really did not have control. And when they interviewed her, she told them the truth. She had witnessed Thomas's inappropriate behavior. She had tried to stop it, but she thought she might die. They bring you to the tower and they interview you, and she said every time the tide would come in, there would be a bunch of rats. They tried to scare her into some kind of confession, and she did tell the truth. She told what she knew, what she saw. I mean, she didn't tell about Elizabeth possibly being pregnant, obviously, but she did confess a lot, which I guess kind of solidified what they believed about Thomas and how he preyed on Elizabeth. But Elizabeth understood. She was not upset with Kat because she knows that her back was against the wall. And in essence, Elizabeth did the same thing. She chose herself. She backed her. She chose herself. She saved herself by, giving them a testimony that was in her own best interest. At the end, we see that Elizabeth goes to court. She goes to see her brother. When she goes to see Edward, Mary is there. I love to see the three of them together, and we see the family love between them and the protection that the love and support that they give each other. And she wants to affirm to Edward that she was not a part of this. She wants him to know that I had nothing to do with this, that Thomas was a traitor and that he deserved death. She's trying to align herself back with the king, which is the whole purpose of her separating herself from Thomas as well. She needs to be in the good graces of her brother, the king. And she, swears herself to him. And of course he receives her because, he loves her and he wants to see and believe the best in her. And he has Thomas's note. So remember, the child had betrayed Thomas on the block, and the note has made its way to Edward. And he gives Thomas's note to Elizabeth. And it's a test, and we can see that he wants to see her reaction. He wants to see if she's going to take it and read it, if what's going to happen with this. And Elizabeth, again, smart and shrewd, knows that this is a test, and she tosses the letter in the fire. Now, I'm sure that was very hard for her because those are Thomas's last words, but the bigger picture here is that I have to prove to my brother that I'm loyal. So I will throw this letter in the fire so that he is assured that my loyalty is to him. So she throws the letter into the fire unread. So that was pretty much where the episode left. I was surprised that Elizabeth made that decision, or I guess made it so it seemed easily. I guess I didn't see the conflict in her. I know it was there, but they didn't show it. I didn't feel like in the episode we saw her kind of waffle back and forth. It seemed like she had kind of made up her mind that she was going to side with the crown. But it makes sense, and she definitely was in self-preservation mode. But another good episode, and it was a little unnerving because as much as I have mixed feelings about Lord Somerset, I do think he has some bastard ways about him, but I do think that he was a sound ruler because Gardner can't be trusted, Henry Grey can't be trusted. I don't like that he created a divide between he and John Dudley because he definitely needed him, and that's probably what turned to him being usurped by him. But he is in a precarious situation right now. His hands were tied because of his brother. He made the decision that everybody would have wanted him to make, but he still walked away with nothing. He's lost his position and his brother is dead. So that's kind of sad to watch. You know, even though he had a contentious relationship with Thomas, it still was his brother, and you can tell that that was a very, very very difficult decision for him. Um, and so next week, I guess we will see what happens with him and how this transpires and what it's going to look like with John Dudley as the Lord Protector, and see what's next with Elizabeth and Mary. So let me know what you thought about this episode and what do your predictions for next week, and we'll talk about it then. Have a good one. Bye.